When you've practiced drawing figures, and then you've practiced drawing figures in the space in pencil, then you're ready to go into pen. I am going to, there's a couple ways that I can do this. This one I drew in pencil, so I want to go in and do that in pen. I may go in there. Of course, when I'm drawing in pen, it gives me the opportunity to not trace my figure, but to sort of do some corrections. So that maybe I get a better drawing in pen than I even had in pencil. Then I can go in, once that dries, and eliminate my pencil marks. And I have a pen drawing. When you get good enough, you'll be able to start and finish in pencil. So if we took, again, and put the figure in here at the end of this cabinet, we'd say this is our eye line. So we want them to stand here. Her head's going to be about there. Her feet, we know, are going to hit the floor right about here. Halfway is going to be right about here, so that's going to be her pelvis, and her rib cage is going to be right about there. I want her facing the counter, so I'm heading this off towards vanishing point left. Her right shoulder is going to be here, and her left shoulder is going to be here. I'm going to put her elbow here and her hand over here, reaching towards the cabinet. A little ear on her there, and maybe a nose on the front of her so that people can sort of orient. Maybe put some hair on the back of her head that heads towards vanishing point left. Draw a little skirt. I don't need too much on her just yet. But my next step is to go into marker, so I'm going to slide a sheet of plastic underneath here. You may want to have a blotter underneath there so that your marker doesn't so your marker doesn't become too slippery or too wet. All right. I'm going to start with my 30%. And since the light in this image is coming from these windows over here from right to left, I'm going to take my figures and I'm going to basically shade the left side of each of those shapes. This is like a sphere, right? So I'm shading it like a sphere in this part to sort of make her turn away from the light. And then underneath her arm and hand, this guy here, I'm going to sort of shade the back and left and underside of him. I can even put a little cast shadow there on the wall. Will sort of help him stand out in 3 dimensions. I might take my 50% and sort of jump some of those things out just here and there, put a mark, or if I wanted to put a shadow core on her to sort of make her turn away from the light, I could go right down here where it turns away from the light. It's also going to help me to cover up some of those scribbly, scratchy marks that I had made in there. This marker's kind of drying out, so I'm going to use the white end to get a little bit more oomph out of it. All right, I don't want to do too much in terms of shading, so my 30 and my 50 is just fine. That's really plenty. But it's going to help me, for instance, here where I had already shaded this plant, bring this book out if I go and do a little extra shading along there, do a little extra shading maybe along his legs there, or maybe knock the thing down behind it so that he comes out in front of it. Okay? It's okay to see the bookshelf through him and to have him not be entirely solid. The last thing I'm going to do is take my Micron 5. You guys may step to the 3 first if you want to do that, and sort of correct for things. This lady looks a little bit flat and clunky, so I can come in here now and do a little bit of drawing. Again, I'm not necessarily tracing. I always like to have some lines be heavy and some lines be light, so I want to leave some of those lines. So I'm not necessarily going over every single line that I went over in the beginning. And this comes with practice. You'll know which lines to go over as you practice and as you do it over and over again. So keep practicing with figures. Get to where you can develop some facility with that. And the more you do it, the better you'll become.